Hello and welcome back. Today, we're diving into a question that many English learners ask. How can I learn English faster? If you've been studying for a while but feel like you're not making progress, don't worry, you're not alone.
That's right, Emma. Learning English can sometimes feel slow. But the good news is that there are ways to speed up the process. It's not just about studying harder, it's about studying smarter.
Exactly. Many learners think they need to memorize hundreds of words every day, but that's not the most effective approach. Instead, it's about how you practice and how you use English in your daily life.
One of the best ways to learn faster is through immersion. Surround yourself with English as much as possible. Watch movies, listen to music, change your phone settings to English, and even try thinking in English. The more exposure you get, the faster your brain adapts.
And don't forget about speaking. A lot of learners focus on reading and writing, but avoid speaking because they're afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes are part of learning. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll become.
Absolutely. And another important tip is to make learning fun. If you enjoy the process, you will stay motivated and learn faster. Play word games, watch your favorite shows with English subtitles, or even find a language partner to practice with.
The key is consistency. Learning English isn't about studying for hours once a week, it's about practicing a little every day. Even 15 to 20 minutes of focused learning can make a huge difference over time.
So, if you're looking for ways to speed up your English learning, remember, immerse yourself in the language, speak as much as possible, and keep it fun. The more you enjoy it, the faster you'll improve.
And here's something interesting: your brain actually learns faster when you're emotionally engaged. That means if you feel excited, curious, or even a little nervous while learning, your brain absorbs the information better.
That's a great point. It's why people who live in an English-speaking country often improve faster. They have to use English in real-life situations, which keeps their brain active and engaged.
But even if you don't live in an English-speaking country, you can create your own immersion. For example, try role-playing everyday situations. Pretend you're ordering food at a restaurant, checking into a hotel, or introducing yourself at a meeting, all in English.
That's a great practice method. And another thing that really helps is shadowing. Have you heard of it?
Of course, shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say as quickly and accurately as possible. It helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency. You can try it with YouTube videos, podcasts, or even movie dialogues.
Yes. And speaking of pronunciation, many learners struggle with certain English sounds. For example, the difference between ship and sheep, or think and sink. The best way to fix this: record yourself speaking and compare it to a native speaker.
That's a brilliant tip. It might feel awkward at first, but it really works. And don't worry if your pronunciation isn't perfect, most people will still understand you as long as you speak clearly.
Exactly. And here's another thing: stop translating everything in your head. It slows you down. Instead, train yourself to think directly in English. It might take time, but once you start doing it, speaking will feel much more natural.
Right. You can start by thinking of simple things in English, describe what you see around you, plan your day in English, or even talk to yourself when no one's around.
That's a fun idea. And let's not forget vocabulary. Instead of memorizing long lists of words, learn them in context. For example, if you learn the word delicious, try using it in a sentence. This pizza is delicious. The more you use a word in real situations, the easier it will be to remember.
Yes, and if you're struggling to remember new words, try using flashcards or apps like Anki or Quizlet. They make learning vocabulary much easier.
And the best part, you don't have to learn alone. Join an English-speaking community, find a language partner, or even comment on social media posts in English. The more you interact, the faster you'll improve.
That's so true. Learning a language is not just about studying, it's about using it. So keep practicing, keep speaking, and enjoy the journey.
And you know what? Another fun way to practice is by playing word games in English. Things like Scrabble, crosswords, or even word association games can really help you expand your vocabulary.
Oh, definitely. Even something as simple as playing 20 questions with a friend in English can make a huge difference. It forces you to think and respond quickly, just like real conversations.
And let's talk about reading. A lot of learners find it easier to read than to speak, but the trick is to read out loud. When you do that, You're not just improving your reading skills, you're also working on pronunciation and fluency at the same time.
Exactly. And if reading books feels intimidating, start with short stories, news articles, or even song lyrics. Singing along to English songs is another great way to improve pronunciation and intonation.
Oh, that's a good one. Music helps you get used to natural speech patterns without even realizing it. And while we're on the topic of entertainment, let's not forget about TV shows and movies. Watching with subtitles can really help bridge the gap between understanding and speaking.
Right. First, watch with subtitles in your native language, then switch to English subtitles, and finally, try watching without any subtitles at all. It's a gradual process, but it really works.
And you know what else helps? Imitating actors. If you hear a phrase you like, pause the video and try saying it exactly the same way. It's like practicing with a built-in tutor.
That's an amazing technique. And let's talk about mindset for a moment. A lot of people feel embarrassed about making mistakes when speaking English. But mistakes are actually a sign that you're learning.
Absolutely. No one speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. The important thing is to keep going. If you say something wrong, just laugh it off and try again.
Yes, confidence is key. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, if you speak with confidence, people will understand you.
And let's not forget about consistency. It's better to practice for 10 minutes every day than to study for hours once a week. Small, daily habits will get you much further.
100% agree. So whether you're reading, listening, speaking, or writing, just keep going. The more you expose yourself to English, the easier it will become.
So, Emma, let's talk about something a lot of learners struggle with thinking in English. Do you remember when you first started doing that?
Oh, yes. At first, I was always translating everything in my head, but that slowed me down. The real change happened when I started describing things around me in English just in my mind.
That's a great technique. Instead of thinking, okay, how do I say this in English? You just try to form sentences naturally, even if they're simple.
Exactly. Like, if I was making breakfast, I'd think, I'm making coffee. The water is boiling. Now I'm adding sugar. It made a huge difference.
And you can even take it a step further by asking yourself questions in English. What am I going to do today? Or what did I enjoy about my morning?
Oh, that's a good one. And another trick is using English when texting. Even if your friends speak your native language, try switching to English for short messages.
That's smart. And if you don't have someone to text in English, you can even text yourself. Like a mini journal, but in chat form.
Yes, I used to type notes in English on my phone, just random thoughts or things I needed to do. It really helped my writing and thinking speed.
Speaking of speed, I think a lot of learners worry too much about speaking perfectly instead of just speaking.
Oh, definitely. I always tell people, it's better to speak with mistakes than not to speak at all. Fluency comes from using the language, not from waiting until you're perfect.
And let's be honest, even native speakers make mistakes. We say we pause, we correct ourselves, it's completely normal.
That's so true. Learning a language is like learning to dance. You won't get the steps right at first, but if you keep moving, you'll get better.
I love that comparison. And you know what else helps? Talking to yourself out loud. It feels weird at first, but it's like practicing a speech before giving it.
Yes, even just narrating what you're doing. I'm brushing my hair. I need to find my keys. Can build confidence.
And if you're feeling brave, try recording yourself and listening back. It helps you catch things you might not notice while speaking.
Oh, I did that once, and I was shocked at how different I sounded from what I imagined, but it helped me improve.
See, learning English is really about experimenting, trying things out, and not being afraid to sound silly sometimes.
100%. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
So, Emma, let's say someone is struggling with confidence when speaking. What would you suggest?
I'd say start small, talk to yourself, practice in front of a mirror, or even read aloud. Just getting used to hearing your own voice in English makes a huge difference.
Oh, reading aloud is a great one. And if you read dialogues, you can even practice different tones and emotions.
Exactly. And another thing, don't be afraid to make mistakes. A lot of learners hesitate because they're scared of saying something wrong, but mistakes are actually a good thing.
Yes, mistakes mean you're learning. And honestly, most people won't even notice them or will still understand what you mean.
Right, and if you don't know a word, just describe it. Like, instead of stopping, try to explain the word in other ways.
Oh, that's a fun challenge. Like, imagine you don't know the word umbrella. How would you describe it?
I'd say, it's something you use when it's raining so you don't get wet.
Perfect. And most of the time, people will understand and even tell you the right word.
Yes, and that helps you remember it better, too, because you had to work for it.
I love that. So, what about accents? A lot of learners worry about sounding like a native speaker.
Oh, I used to stress about that too. But here's the truth. Accents don't matter as much as clarity.
Yes. Being understood is the most important thing. And honestly, accents are beautiful. They show where you're from and make you unique.
Exactly. Instead of trying to erase an accent, focus on pronunciation and speaking clearly.
Right. And listening helps a lot too. Watching movies, listening to podcasts, just hearing how words flow naturally.
Definitely. And shadowing is a great technique. Have you tried it?
Oh, yes. For anyone who doesn't know, shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and repeat right after them, mimicking their rhythm and pronunciation.
Yes, it's like copying their melody, and over time, it helps with natural intonation.
Such a good exercise. Okay. What's another tip for improving speaking?
I'd say, find a language partner. Talking to real people is the best way to practice.
100%. Even if you don't have native speakers around, you can find language exchange partners online.
Yes, and sometimes, just having short daily conversations makes a huge difference.
Totally. Consistency is key. Practicing a little every day is better than studying for hours once a week.
Exactly. Even 10 minutes of speaking practice daily will add up over time.
And the best part, the more you do it, the more natural it feels.
And you know what? Another great way to practice is by thinking in English.
Oh, yes. Instead of translating everything from your native language, just try forming sentences directly in English.
Right, like, when you're walking outside, describe what you see in English. The sky is blue, the sun is shining, I see a dog running, simple things like that.
Exactly. It helps you get used to forming sentences naturally without overthinking grammar.
Yes, and speaking of grammar, I think a lot of learners get caught up in trying to be perfect.
Oh, for sure. They worry so much about making mistakes that they don't even try speaking.
But the truth is, even native speakers don't always use perfect grammar in everyday conversation.
That's so true. We say things like gonna instead of going to, or wanna instead of want to.
Yes, and contractions like I'll instead of I will make speech sound more natural.
Exactly. So, instead of stressing about every single grammar rule, focus on communicating.
Yes, because confidence is way more important than being perfect.
100%. And honestly, the more you speak, the more your grammar will improve naturally.
That's the thing. Learning a language isn't just about memorizing rules, it's about using it.
Yes, and sometimes just putting yourself in situations where you have to speak English is the best way to learn.
Like traveling, joining an English-speaking group, or even ordering food in English at a restaurant.
Oh, ordering food is a great one. It's a simple way to practice, and it gives you real-life experience.
Yes, and even if you make mistakes, people will appreciate the effort.
Absolutely. And you'll feel more comfortable the more you do it.
Speaking of feeling comfortable, another tip is to record yourself speaking.
Oh, that's a good one. It helps you hear your pronunciation and improve over time.
Yes, and at first, it might feel weird, but it's actually really helpful.
I totally agree. And you can compare your recordings over time and see how much you've improved.
Exactly, little by little, you'll start noticing progress, and that's really motivating.
Yes. And motivation is key. Learning a language is a journey, and you have to enjoy the process.
100%. Finding fun ways to practice, like watching movies, singing songs, or even playing games in English, makes it so much easier.
Oh, games are great. Even simple ones like word association or 20 questions can help with fluency.
Yes, anything that keeps you thinking in English and speaking as much as possible.
Exactly. And the best part is, the more you practice, the more natural it all becomes.
And another fun way to practice, talking to yourself in English.
Oh yeah, it sounds silly, but it really helps. You can narrate what you're doing, like, now I'm making coffee, or I need to finish my work soon.
Exactly. It keeps your brain active in English, and you don't even need a speaking partner.
Right. But if you do want a partner, there are so many language exchange apps where you can chat with native speakers.
Oh, totally. Apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or even joining online communities where people practice English together.
Yes. And the cool thing is, many native speakers are also learning another language, so they understand how hard it can be.
That's true, and they don't expect you to be perfect. In fact, most of them are just happy you're making the effort.
Exactly. It's all about communication, not perfection.
And you know, one thing that really helped me when I was learning another language was using phrases instead of individual words.
Oh, you mean like learning full sentences instead of just vocabulary?
Yes, like, instead of memorizing the word recommend, learn a phrase like, "Can you recommend a good restaurant?"
Oh, that's a game changer. Because then, when you need to ask for a recommendation, you don't have to think about grammar, you already know the whole sentence.
Exactly, and it helps with fluency because you're speaking in chunks, not just piecing words together.
That's so smart. And another trick is to repeat what native speakers say.
Oh, yes, shadowing. Like, if you're watching a movie or listening to a podcast, try repeating what they say right after them.
Right. It helps with pronunciation, intonation, and even rhythm.
Yes, and it trains your mouth to move in an English-speaking way.
That's true. Some sounds might not exist in your native language, so practicing them over and over makes a huge difference.
Exactly, and one way to make it fun is by singing along to English songs.
Oh, totally. Music helps you remember words and phrases effortlessly. Yes, and if you love a song, you'll naturally want to understand the lyrics, so it's a great way to improve vocabulary. That's true. Plus, it's just fun.
Speaking of fun, watching TV shows in English is also a great way to learn.
Yes, and I'd say start with subtitles in your native language, then switch to English subtitles, and eventually, no subtitles at all.
Exactly, and for beginners, sitcoms like Friends or How I Met Your Mother are great because they use everyday language.
Oh, and cartoons are awesome too. They speak clearly and use simple words.
True, Peppa Pig is actually a really good one for beginners.
Oh wow, I never thought about that. But yeah, it makes sense.
Right, and if you want to challenge yourself, you can try listening to audiobooks.
Yes, you can start with children's books and then move to more complex stories as you improve.
Exactly, and the cool part is, you're improving both listening and comprehension at the same time.
That's such a great way to learn. I love how there are so many different ways to practice.
Yes, learning English doesn't have to be boring, it should be part of your daily life in fun ways.
100%. The key is to stay consistent and enjoy the process.
You know, another thing that really helps is keeping a journal in English.
Oh yeah, just writing a few sentences every day about what you did or how you feel.
Exactly, and you don't have to worry about making mistakes, just write freely.
Right, and if you want to improve even more, you can use apps like Grammarly to check your grammar.
That's a good idea. And if you're not sure how to say something, you can look it up and learn a new phrase.
Yes, and over time, you'll see how much better your writing gets.
And writing also helps with speaking because you're organizing your thoughts in English.
That's true. It's like practicing without actually speaking out loud.
Oh, and another great way to practice is thinking in English.
Oh yeah. Instead of translating from your native language, just try forming thoughts directly in English.
Yes, like, when you wake up, you can think, I need to get ready, or what should I eat for breakfast?
Exactly. It's a small habit, but it really helps with fluency.
And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
I love that. Also, one trick I use is describing things around me in English.
Oh, that's a good one. Like looking around and saying, that's a wooden table, or the sky is cloudy today.
Yes, it forces your brain to find the words you already know.
And if you don't know a word, you can look it up and learn something new.
That's so useful, and it's something you can do anytime, anywhere.
Exactly. And if you're alone, you can even say it out loud for extra practice.
Oh, totally. Speaking out loud, even to yourself, makes a huge difference.
Yes, it builds confidence because you're getting used to hearing your own voice in English.
That's true. And confidence is so important when learning a language.
Absolutely. The more you practice, the more comfortable you become.
And the more comfortable you are, the easier it gets to speak with other people.
Exactly. It's all about making English part of your daily life.
So basically, the key is to surround yourself with English in every way possible.
Yes, listening, reading, writing, speaking, even thinking in English.
And making it a fun habit, like watching shows, listening to music, or even talking to yourself.
Right, and the more you do it, the more natural it feels.
You know, we've talked about so many ways to improve journaling, describing things around you, thinking in English.
Yeah, and all of these methods don't require a classroom. You can practice anytime, anywhere.
That's the best part. You don't need a teacher to improve, you just need to stay consistent.
Exactly, even small daily habits can make a huge difference.
So, to everyone listening, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, enjoy the process.
Yes, learning a language should be fun, not stressful. Just take it one step at a time.
And remember, fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about communicating confidently.
That's the best advice. So, keep going, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.